Welcome to UNAM Chicago's Café Expresso, a space for bilateral conversations with people from all walks of life. Tune in to Spanish Public Radio and follow us on social media. And now your host, Alberto Foncerrada.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Café Expresso. My name is Alberto Foncerrada, and I am your host. Café Expresso is a program of UNAM Chicago in alliance with Spanish Public Media. Today is a very special day. I'm having a conversation with Alina Ramírez Melendez. She's in Singapore. Hello, Alina.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. No, thank you, Alina. Alina is a director. She's a pianist. She's a composer, educator, and cultural promoter. She has received tons of recognitions, or some of the highest recognitions from the Mexican government, such as the Otley Medal, in recognition for her passion for disseminating Mexican culture and the arts worldwide in 2013. And she's also the founder of the Singapore Latin American Arts and Cultural Center. So, Alina, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Singapore?
Yes, I would have never thought I was coming to live somewhere so far from home. But I came to perform in a club for 3 months was the contract. My brother was lecturing here in the university, and he used to go dancing to a club where they wanted a band, and that's how I came. And then it was a whole adventure. It was a lot of circumstances. I don't think I would have taken the decision like I'm going to move to Singapore and live there 25 years. It was just a lot of circumstances together. The job that I was doing in Mexico, the year that the university went on a strike, the biggest, longest strike that the university has had, was 1999. That was the year I came here. So while being here, I found out that 2 of my main jobs were not longer happening in Mexico because the UNAM was closed. I was teaching in the National School of Music, and I was playing in the theaters of the university, the UNAM.
You studied at UNAM, right? Music.
Yes, I studied classical piano at the National School of Music. So I felt that I could give myself a little bit of space so that I could travel a little bit. The club where we were playing didn't pay in full, so I thought maybe I can stay for a while and put some pressure to the owner to give the money that they own us. So there were a lot of circumstances that made me stay, and my thought was I stay 1 year. When everything goes back to normal in Mexico, I go back. And that was very tough because when things went back to normal, I had already started playing here with. I found here there was a very solid community of jazz music that was having a lot of impact in like lobbies, hotel lobbies were like concert halls. People would go there to listen to music, and there were not many musicians back then. There were, and very good, but this was before Singapore opened their own schools of music. So people would come from abroad, people that with a long career with big names would come to perform here. So it was a whole of an opportunity to be here and to be able to play with these people, these musicians. So that was the bet, and I thought it also as something temporary. I just want to play with these people and have a little bit of experience, and then I will go back. And that went on and on. 1 year, one more year, one more year, and it's been 23.
Wow, 23 years there.
Yes.
That's amazing. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to give to have you give us this interview is because, as you know, in a few days we're going to be celebrating International Jazz Day on April 30th. So, knowing your experience, I know you have so much talent, and I know you're a jazz musician too. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what does jazz mean? What does jazz entail? And how is jazz opening up in such a diverse culture as Singapore, such a different culture? How has it embraced jazz?
Yes, that's a very good question. There are several questions in one. Yeah, going from the last one, that's a very good question. Since I arrived, I was very impressed that they would have jazz music in the MRT, or that was very. These old standards were played everywhere. The standards, the jazz standards from the American Jazz Book, was everywhere. They were very in demand, and not only for older generations, but even young generations. So I felt that it melted the coming of musicians that were coming from the States with the real tradition, with the heritage, with the history they lived together with people here, that musicians here that were very eager to learn and to develop their own experience. So yeah, it started since I'm here, but it has evolved now with the schools, the jazz schools that they opened. I went to one of them. It's also this process of building up their own young community of jazz musicians with very good teachers. So I think it's growing. The other question, what is jazz? I feel that it's there is a difference, very very strong difference between jazz musicians and all other kind of musicians. I believe that the fact, not only the improvisation, because there is improvisation in the son jarocho, in the flamenco, in the Latin music, the salsa. Mm-hmm. Improvisation is everywhere, but this language of jazz has been evolving, and it's very specific. It has a long-term tradition. It comes from almost a century or more than a century of the African Americans in the United States. That's where it starts. And from the blues to the whole evolution, to the big bands, to the bebop, it's a genre that has a huge history, almost as the Western music, and this history has every decade of the history has an input of fresh new ideas, new musicians. So it has grown and evolved very fast. So it's very particular. It's condensed, and it's very solid as a language.
I
That's
know,
what.
and you can see it. I mean, I'm talking from my own experience here in Chicago, where jazz is huge. I mean, well, this is more like the blues kind of city, but jazz is also has grown incredible, and we have the Jazz Fest, or I remember when we were in Montreal in Canada too. The Jazz Festival is pretty big. But yeah, like you say, it's the younger generations are embracing the music too, and then you see some kind of like mutations with all this Latin influence, right? And Latin instruments all of a sudden are in a band, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, it has blended with the Latin music, especially at the beginning with the Brazilian, but then all the Afro-Cuban also influence. So yeah, now there are these subgenres that are the Latin jazz. Yeah, there are many other, but I think Latin jazz is very strong because these two languages melt very good. Yeah, they have a lot of things in common.
So, Alina, what are your plans in the upcoming days? Do you have any? Are you doing a lot of performances online or?
Well, this phenomenon had a huge impact in our lives, the pandemic,
Mhm.
so everything changed for us. I think for many people, but especially our industry, it's
Hard
destroyed.
hit, yes.
It's totally destroyed. So yes, in Singapore we have still a few concerts on a specific theater, the main theater, and I have a concert in July, 25th July, piano solo. I'm playing my own music,
Okay.
and this music, I have always written music, but this music, I the one that I'm playing now is more recent, and I was telling you I did a BA in the jazz music school here, um, and this was the project to, like, when you do we also had to do a dissertation, but you have to do a final work. So these pieces were from my final work of this year. That was very interesting because it's everything I knew in somehow practice, but with a lot of more theory and much more exposed to the examination. Like, it was interesting. So I have this feeling that I need to play more this music that I just played for my exam, and now I'm going to play it. And the center, the cultural center that we opened in October 2019, I think we will continue with concerts. We have once a month a very nice duo of amazing Mexican musicians. For me, the most representative of the traditional music, but they do Latin American music. So we have this concert that most of the people that comes are from here, from local community from Singapore, but we managed to add some people that lives in Europe and so that are regulars. So we have these concerts, and yeah, it's a time for us to share knowledge. We are most of the musicians now, which we teach full time, which is also something that is very rewarding. So basically, yeah, that's how it is these days.
Well, good. I mean, at least you're keeping yourself busy, and hopefully you're doing what you really. I mean, we're making good use of your talent. What I'm trying to say, and it's good that you keep yourself engaged in the educational programs for sure. And just as as your mission, the mission of the Latin American Arts and Cultural Center says, it's programs for social and artistic activities to promote, develop, and preserve the spirit, diversity, and richness of the Latin American cultural heritage. I love that. So That is so nice. And is there anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, well, I think that what was happening before the pandemic, this interchange of musicians coming from Mexico to Singapore, and a community that has been built with many years of musicians that play together, that interchange their backgrounds, and it has been one of the most rewarding things that I have achieved to help these interchanges, cultural interchanges of musicians, to promote how strong is jazz music in Mexico, in this side of the world. That has been also an achievement. So yeah, I'm very happy, and I'm waiting for that to come back. That's one of the things that I miss the most, is to be able to do these links between people.
Well, keep on doing what you're doing, and I'm sure things are going to get better soon. And to my audience, we just had a fascinating conversation with Alina Ramírez Melendez. She's a very dynamic person. She's a pianist, a composer, an educator, and a cultural promoter. And she has phenomenal music. And we're going to leave you with a little bit of taste of her music right here. So Alina, thank you for all this time that you devoted to me. Good morning in Singapore. Good night in Chicago.
Thank you, Beto. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you for congratulations on this project.
Thank you, Alina. And to my audience, this has been another edition of Café Expresso. My name is Alberto Foncerrada. I am your host. Café Expresso is a program of UNAM Chicago in alliance with Spanish Public Media. Until next time.